Hello, I'm Julian Northbrook from doingenglish.com. Here's an interesting question for you. What is language exactly? You would think that this would be a fairly straightforward and simple question to answer, but far from it. It is actually quite difficult to say what exactly a language is. So here in this video, I want to give you the definition that language scientists have come up with. In the 1960s, the linguist Charles F. Hockett came up with a set of features that characterize human language. I say human language because although animals do have language, it's clearly not the same as the language that we as human beings produce. I'll make a separate video another day all about animal language. For us here battling with the question of what is language, Hockett's features are a great starting point. Originally, there were 13 of these language characterizing features. However, arguably, some of them actually aren't necessary for language. For example, speaking and listening. Although we generally think of language as being something that is spoken, something that you listen to and understand with your ear, people who are deaf and dumb use sign language, and that is just as much language as the spoken equivalent. So, speaking and listening actually are not necessary for a language to be language. The first feature of language is that language must always communicate meaning. When I say something, when I gesture something, my intention is always to communicate some kind of meaning to the comprehender. This much is fairly obvious and fairly simple to understand. Second, language itself is actually completely arbitrary. What we mean by this is that the words that we use to convey a certain meaning is simply a symbol that does nothing to tell us about the actual thing we are talking about. For example, the word book does nothing to describe the physical properties of a book, and it's no better than the word hon, the Japanese equivalent of book. Hon, book, either way, it does nothing to tell us about what this actually is. I could call this object a blingle bopper, and although nobody would actually understand me, it is just as good of a symbol as book or hon. See what I did there? Third, the sounds of any language must fit into a limited number of distinct categories. This number will be different depending on what language we're talking about. But for example, English has 40 phonemes, Japanese has 46. Some languages have far more, some languages have far less. But the point is, no language can ever have an unlimited number of sounds. Next, and perhaps most importantly, language must be able to convey information about things or events that take place outside of the current space and time. This is important because monkeys, for example, can make different calls for different kinds of predators. If they see a predator coming from the air, they will make one kind of call. A predator coming from the ground will elicit a different kind of call. These monkeys, however, cannot convey information about these predators when the predators are not present. Human languages can. Human languages can talk about things that are not currently present or did not take place at this exact point in time. Finally, in order to be a language, it must be generative, and this means that a limited number of units, whether words, chunks, phrases, rules, expressions, or what have you, are able to combine to produce an unlimited number of sentences. Now this is a great start. These features do a wonderful job of categorizing and defining language in a scientific manner. However, in my opinion, they do very little to get to the core of the problem, the heart of the question of what language is. Language, in my opinion, is far more than just a tool that we use to communicate meanings and ideas. Language is much deeper than that. Language is fundamental to what it means to be human. It is core to our very existence. Could you imagine life without language, for example? Probably you can't. That there is my criticism of academia in general. Whilst academia has to be precise in order to progress scientific knowledge, it often does so at the expense of practicality and real-world usefulness. So in my book, Master English Fast, in Chapter 3, Language Learning 101, I give my own personal definition of what language is and why that matters to you as the language learner. Of course, in this book, we also go step by step through the process of improving your English and speaking, not just language as defined by language scientists, but extraordinarily good language that is useful in the real world. To get a copy of my book, just head over to masterenglishfast.com and I'll see you on the other side. Before I go ahead, leave a comment. Tell us in the comments, what do you believe to be the most important defining aspect of language? Tell us in the comments. I want to hear, and I'm sure everybody else does as well. Of course, if you're new to this channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you hated it, go ahead and bash that thumbs down button. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.